And in this segment, we will be talking about tourism in Egypt as the number of tourists are increasing. And actually, this summer is starting to attract several nationalities and travelers from different destinations. And of course, our high season is the winter, and we have high expectations for the next season as well, especially with the resumption of the Russian flights. And we have many new also destinations introduced. We have now a large market from Latin America, we have from the Far East and China, and we will be talking about tourism in Egypt and the new type of clientele introduced in the tourism market and the forecast for the next season. And I'm happy to have with me Mr. Elhamy Zayat. Of course, he's a tourism expert as well as the former head of and president of the Tourism Federation. Welcome with us, Mr. Elhamy.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. 7 years of difficult times for tourism in Egypt that is finally starting to pick up.
Absolutely.
According to local and international reports, I have seen a report by The Independent also talking about how especially British people are interested in the upcoming season to come to Egypt. Mm-hmm. What has been changing for such a positive change?
That's very difficult to say, or to say this is exactly. Few factors were very crucial in operating this change. You know, we had a very bad image because of the adverse media, because of all what was happening, and I don't want to talk about always theories of people against Egypt. I'm just simple in analysis. But also we have been weak in responding. That's a fact. Today, one of the best response were the trips of the president overseas. The meetings he had with various leaders in the world, it created a certain ambiance of confidence. And especially, except for the meeting with the Brits, which was not to my liking, but with Trump, with the French, with Macron, with everybody, it was very successful and very good. This in itself is a lot of mileage that we win for tourism. And of course, the continued efforts of the industry, because I can't say from the ministry, because in the last 2 years we had very little input from the ministry and the company which was assigned to the problem or the objective to promote tourism. Despite this, the people of Egypt were going, attending regularly, and I think this is what mainly caused this upsurge of tourism coming back. Plus, of course, we have to recognize if a tourist come, 92% of tourism arriving in Egypt come by plane. And after January 25, we had a shortage of plane coming to Cairo specifically, and that's the tourism, what we call the cultural tourism, which go to Luxor as well. Now there have been a revival, not the way we would like to see it, because we lost close to 2,000 seats per week. If you multiply by 52 weeks, it gets close or even above 1 million passengers of the expensive passengers. So that's a problem. But now we are seeing it's coming slowly back, and back from areas which were existing, but now they are improving. Why? Because there is a link. The link is by the airlines. And Egypt Air will not fly to South America, for instance, because it does not substantiate commercially that they go there. But some other carriers from African countries, we have 2 major carriers from African countries. We have, of course, the Gulf countries, and these are serving Egypt. Before we were stuck to France, England, Italy, and Spain. Portugal have no direct connection with Egypt, but now we have via South Africa, via Ethiopia, via Emirates. You know, we have a lot of
solutions, like new solutions introduced.
Connection flights.
Exactly, connection flight.
Yes.
And they are fighting to get and to create of their destination a hub, which is good for us, even Turkey, I would say. And that's why Turkey is flying to Sharm. They were planning to fly to Luxor, and I'm sure they will again, because many of their passengers come from remote areas, so they gather in Istanbul and they come to Egypt.
Now, Mr. Elhamy, with already the summer season has started, and that's a totally different type of clientele than that of the winter season. And I understand that there are new type of destinations, new type of clientele introduced this year than what we're used to as well, in addition to our classical clients. So would you tell us the difference and the type of clientele that comes in the summer versus that in the winter, please?
Well, the type or the nationality of the clientele,
Yes.
which are doing a very big boom and are known to be the starter everywhere, are the Italians. So now you can't find one bed in Marsa Alam. Marsa Alam is chock full. Chock full, I mean it. And the Italians, when they come, they invade. But also, they launch a concept. They launch something that becomes a fashion. So it's very important. It was very important for us. Last 2 years, we had no Italian. And if you remember, although I'm sure you are very young, you don't, but Sharm el-Sheikh was launched by the Italians. 10 years ago, when you went in the streets, everybody spoke Italian. Every hotel has an Italian restaurant
it's true.
because the Italians were predominant. Now, Sharm.
Yes.
The Germans are going a lot to Sharm. To Marsa Alam. And it is becoming a very,
The hit.
very
It's
good,
becoming a
it's
hit.
becoming the hit summer and winter.
Yes, you're
And
right.
this is the good thing about it. Because Italians don't mind coming in summer. And in August, you will see it full of Italian. In
Yes.
August, when it's 40 degrees,
They
you will
would
see them
still
coming.
come.
Yes, like Sharm, they used to come.
Mr. Elhamy, as I was talking to you, I noticed that there has been change. Can we say that the people working in the tourism industry starting to change the way they were thinking than the past, than before 2010, started designing new packages, targeting new markets, new ways of thinking when it comes to attracting tourists to Egypt instead of the old classical way or type of attracting tourism to Egypt?
You see, I don't know, maybe I'm very biased for the classical, and not only the classical, the historical way of seeing Egypt. Egypt has so much to show in history, whether Pharaonic, whether Coptic, whether Islamic, whether Jewish. We have a lot to show to everybody. And I don't know, I'm very biased because I love history and I love the history of Egypt. So everywhere you go in any village, you will find history. So I would go
Now, I'm
for this.
talking about the way the people in the industry are thinking. Their mindset started to change because they started to see the problem and think of ways to overcome this problem.
I have to be very blunt. Unfortunately, people, they follow whatever trend exists.
Yes.
And you can see if you have a shoe shop, the next door you have 5 shoe shops. I mean, people don't go for creativity that much. But some of them do, and those who do are the winners. You know, you have to always, if you create something new, you have to be the winner. But we have to admit that we lost a lot of employees, and people were a bit discouraged after 7 bad years. You can't be really smiling and with all the problems we are facing. So this is a deterrent in a certain way of thinking new, except when you are used to. But today we have new products, I agree with you. We have the visit of the Holy Family. It's not big in number, but it's big that it visits places which are normally not visited, like Asyut,
Yes.
like Minya. People stopped going to Jabal al-Tayr and to Asyut, to Dronka. These are places, even a few number, but they're good spenders. So that's important. And I not only think of numbers. Numbers, we'll have them in Hurghada and Sharm eventually. And when the Russian will come back, hopefully by October, you will get the numbers. But on the other side, you need the money, because a balance between the income and the numbers is important. I don't neglect the numbers, but I don't neglect the income. Of course, we have many other types of tourism. And there are people who are courageous and are launching Siwa, for instance. Yes.
Desert tourism.
Absolutely.
Recreational.
Recreational, and more now you have wellness, which have existed since our dear colleague and his wife Leheta started all this in Safaga. It was a big thing, and now it's continuing and it gets more and more clients. So we have activities, and we have diving, we have many things that are
We can
coming
offer.
by itself. We can afford to have them.
Now, I'm quite curious about the classical itinerary because there has been talk about adjusting it for new destinations. But to what extent is that feasible? Because definitely everybody wants to see the pyramids and the museum. Everybody wants to go to Luxor and Aswan.
Yes.
So how can we fit unconventional areas in? Because what we do usually, it's being sold as optional sometimes to those who have time. How can we create a variety of programs and itineraries and create a repetitive client in Egypt who can come always and every time see something different?
First, the trade must be educated on what we have as attractions. You know the history as much as I do, or even better. But for instance, I remember when I started, I used to take people by bus to Fayoum, Beni Suef, Minya, all the way to Aswan in non-air-conditioned buses, staying in 2 and 3 stars hotel, and paying in 14 nights $2,000, 79. Could you imagine what it was? We have to revive this day, and only French and German and Italian were doing these kind of trips. In Minya, we had one hotel which had 5 rooms, and another leased apartment with 1 toilet for 5 rooms. So can you imagine? We had to crowd the people in because we have no choice. But it was booming. So we have to come back and say, these cities exist, and there is so much to see.
That's
Minya,
what I meant. I mean,
Exactly.
targeting new markets and discovering new places, and therefore tailoring new
Exactly.
touristic programs for the clients.
Unfortunately, I would love to see our trade being the leaders, not being led. Normally, you get a request from a travel agent overseas and you answer. But you should tell him there is much more to see. This is the most important thing they should know. And not only these people, but the people who work for them. Everybody should know what the country can offer and where is it safe to go, because you don't want to have a problem anywhere. I agree Egypt is now much, 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 much more safer than whatever it used to be, but still we have to be cautious in our
Yes,
business.
still it's good news, but we need to
Exactly,
work
to
more
improve.
on it.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Elhamy Zayat, tourism expert as well as president of the Tourism Federation. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.
Well, I
Thank
guess,
you,
Hala, it's time
sir.
to wrap up the episode.
Yes, our time is up. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us in this edition of Nile Cruise. We hope you've enjoyed it just as much as we did. We'll be seeing you in the upcoming episodes of